Kia ora guys, Bird here. Welcome to episode 25 of Thaumcraft for Addons. We're starting over here on the researching island today because you can see behind me that we have two wands that were previously our top tier wands. Yes, indeed. In the last episode we made the, I can't even remember what this thing is called. The Ecorium adorned, Ecor cloth strapped silverwood wand, and it's so long that I have to move it over here if I want to see everything about it. I went ahead and let the whole thing charge all the way up to 1,000 between this episode and last episode, and yeah, I'm pretty much using this as my new main wand that I'm carrying around now, because you guys in the comments are sort of saying that you know, this thing's got such a large capacity that you only have to recharge it every so often, but I'm the kind of person that would sort of, basically after this episode, I would go over to the table, charge it all the way back up to 1,000 again, and kind of wait for that to happen. If there's one good thing about the Primal Wand is that it basically recharges Vise if it's really low, so it was really good for that, but you know, something like this is going to be, I think, a little bit better, especially for doing some more... especially if we're doing something like the Outer Lands, we can run in with like 1,000 Vise and pretty much not have any fear of running out like we actually did during the last Outer Lands thingy. And I also have my Void Aspected Silverwood Scepter here. This is the guy that we made once we discovered the Void Caps. But I went ahead and killed two more withers, as it turns out, to actually get enough Essentia to make basically the scepter version of this guy right here. So now we have the Ecorium adorned Ecor cloth strapped silverwood scepter, and I've let this also charge all the way up to 1,500. Now this has a 10% more discount on it than the previous scepter, so that's got 55, 58 for everything, and this is... I have to move it again if I want to see that. 65, 68, so this is 10% cheaper and everything. It's currently the highest discount that I've ever had for a wand. And basically that is so cheap and so full of Vise that I could now take what was specifically designed to be impossible to craft, as it turns out, after me doing a little bit of research. This is supposed to technically be impossible to craft, the Void Aspected Primal stuff. You're not supposed to be able to get this in the game because I think the way that Aznor... so he specifically made it so that the cost was too much to be able to get through the vanilla Thaumcraft means. Because he just, I guess it was just too overpowered or something. So you either have to go with the Void Aspected Scepter or the, you know, the primal stuff with the Thaumium caps. Now because now the scepter takes 3 caps to make, so I ended up having a spare Ecorium cap here. So this is probably just going to have to live here for the rest of its life, unless I decide to make another scepter with Ecorium caps, which I guess could happen if we find, for example, a better staff core in the future. But anyway, today is going to be a researching episode. I really want to go ahead and get the, what is it called? I really want to get started with node merging, node bullying, whatever you guys call it, and all of that stuff that I want to get is here in Automagy. Specifically, it's over here. One of the things that we're going to need to get started with that is the remote comparator, this guy. So we need to go ahead and get our scribing tools and paper out. So let's do just that, and pick up the remote comparator research node. Ooh, it looks like it might have Sensus as one of its base components, keeping an eye on things, and there it is, Sensus, as well as Ire, Potentia, and Machina. Well, Sensus actually has Ire in it, does it? And Spiritus as well, so we'll have to put Spiritus down, just like so. And then we've got this guy right here, which I'm thinking Ignis Cognitio is probably our best bet right there. Sure enough, that works. And then Machina connects to Motus in Instrumentum. Okay, perhaps what I can do is something like Instrumentum Ordo is probably the best bit there, just to connect that in. And then this guy here, how is he going to connect? Probably, let's see, I'm thinking Wakwas, and then Mortu, you know, Periditio Mortuus. Let's see if we can do something a little bit more efficient than that. Cognitio has, those guys in it. Okay, yeah. We can do Luke's actually, just to connect those two. So, yeah, that saved me a couple of the darker aspects there, just by using our noggin a little bit. That's probably optimal in terms of the aspects that are used there, which is pretty awesome. But there it is, the remote comparator, keeping an eye on things. Oh man, This thing is apparently pretty powerful from what you guys have, at least what I have seen. You guys haven't actually told me about this. So what does it say? Signals that relay how full your chests are can be useful, but redstone comparators can often get in the way. That's definitely true, something that I've noticed down in the alchemy lab. Having the redstone comparators all over the show is not particularly nice, particularly when you want to make something look nice and building, but you've got all these redstone lines going everywhere. With this in mind, you've invented the remote comparator. It outputs a signal based on a block's inventory or other status, just like a redstone comparator, but doesn't have to be next to the block. Awesome. There are even some containers and item holders a normal comparator doesn't work on, which this will handle, including many related to Thaumaturgy. Oh man. Of course, some other way of telling the device where it should be looking is necessary. Fortunately, the crystallization technique you discovered can help in this regard. Oh, okay, the crystallization technique meaning making red crystals? That seems to be the case. The actual recipe for the remote comparator itself is 3 arcane stone blocks, fairly cheap, some red crystals, and an air shard, okay, as well as some cheapest chips aspects. And that gets you 1 remote comparator. Okay, that's fairly interesting. There's a little bit of a setup time if you want to make these things, but hopefully we won't have to make them too often. Yeah, there's several different crafting steps involved to get one of those. And the next page here has something about the Crystalline eye, okay. A crystalline eye is used to allow certain Thaumic devices to observe other locations. An eye can be attuned to a specific position by right-clicking with it on the desired block, and then simply place the attuned eye into the slot provided by the device. There is a limit to how far away the device can be from the specified coordinates. This limit is generally 20 blocks, but it is possible that some devices will have other requirements. Okay, so it seems like this guy here, it says device. Now I'm assuming that this crystalline eye can be used with the remote comparator as its sort of primary use, but the way that it says device sort of implies that it can be used on something other than the remote comparator. We'll have to discover that in future. But in order to make this thing, you need to take a spider eye and your crucible, as well as 4 sensors and 2 wheat trails, kind of an interesting little dude. And that gets the crystalline eye, very cool. So yeah, basically I've kind of spilled the beans for myself on this. I know that you can, for example, use this crystalline eye to select a node, because a node sort of acts as a block, and then that block's got all sorts of like data about it, like the Vise that's inside it, etc. So you can have this as a block, select an aura node as the thing it's looking at, and put that on your remote comparator, and it will tell you how full the node is of Vise. You know, just the way that a chest does. Like, you know how like nodes have like, I don't know, let's say 20 iron in it, and then if you drain the thing out with your wand, it's like the Vise comes out, but it doesn't like drain how much is like, you know, the total amount that's in there. And that sort of works like vanilla comparators, how they sort of check a chest and they take into account how much stuff is in the chest, and then, you know, like, and in comparison to how much space the chest can have. So they're pretty much the same thing going on there. So you can get a redstone signal out of a node now, which is what I'm trying to say, which is fairly awesome, but there's not a whole lot that we can do with it. But thankfully it actually looks like the thing that I wanted is the very next thing. This is a purchasable one here, the Vise Reader. A watched crucible never boils. So the purchasable for 5 sensus, 5 prayer, contatio, and 3 aurum, which I apparently do not have, so let's just quickly enter the table and pick up some as well as a spare. Go ahead and purchase that, very cool, easy as pie. And we also learned about, let's see, we learned about this guy over here, the crystalline brain, crystallized intelligence. Okay, this is a forbidden knowledge. Well, that's pretty cool. We've got the Vise Reader right here, a watched crucible never boils. Measuring the empty space inside a container is one thing, but determining the type and amount of Vise is another story. And the protagonist of this story? That'd be the Vise Reader. Da-da-da-da! The Vise Reader outputs a redstone signal based on the Vise contents of anything from watered jars to crucibles to aura nodes themselves. Da-da-da-da! That's what we want. It could even read wands Vise if they were held on a suitable device. Oh, okay, so something like the wand recharge pedestal, or maybe just the normal pedestals, perhaps? That's something to try in future. There are two ways this can work. The simplest method is placing the Vise reader directly beneath the object to be read. Otherwise, place a remote comparator above the reader and link its crystalline eye to the target location. Oh man, there's actually a lot of text right here. Before we travel any further, let's just go over the actual recipe here, which has thankfully actually been placed on the first page. I noticed that sometimes when Azanor does stuff in here, like if there's something that requires multiple pages to explain, it doesn't actually show the recipe on the first page, which is kind of annoying. Let's go back to this though. So the recipe for it is a thermometer. Okay, I can see it kind of plastered on the top there. Some arcane stone block, a piece of quartz in the middle, okay. And a red crystal coming out the side. Fair enough. So you get the Vise reader for that, as well as, again, just a chump change of all the primals, as it turns out. Very cool. Very powerful item in the right hands, and hopefully our feathery hands are going to be just fine. Or rather, wings. Anyway, the comparator will cease its normal functions instead of relaying Vise information to the reader to act upon. Oh, okay. So basically the comparator, if you put it on top of the Vise reader, it'll send the information into the Vise relay. I think that's how it works. Right-click the Vise reader with your wand to configure it, and then this goes on to explain all of the configurations, which I probably won't go into right now. Perhaps when we get into more of this node episode. Well, let's just quickly have a quick goings-on right here. When the red object is a node capacity set to auto, and one of the any modes is selected, something or other, blah blah blah. You found that not only can the Vise reader measure the presence of aspects in an object, but it can evaluate the lack of aspects when certain devices are attempting to carry out their tasks. At least this seems to be the case with the matrix of an infusion altar. You want to send redstone signals based on whether an infusion is taking place and how it is going. Oh, okay, so kind of automating the Essentia, sending Essentia to your infuser a little bit more there, kind of interesting. Yeah, I imagine there is some there are probably a few people out there that have extremely complicated infusion setups where you probably have something almost like this, where you have your Essentia jars with labels on them, around your infusion altar, but it isn't, your infusion altar isn't where you store the majority of your Essentia. It's where I store my Essentia, just because that's just the way the base evolved. But I imagine that there are some people out there that have their Essentia storage somewhere else. For example, a good place would be in the alchemy lab. And so you want to be able to send precise amounts of Essentia over to the system, and so you'd have all sorts of stuff like redstone, the length of a redstone signal going to a valve, so it matters how much that takes, all this technical stuff. It's a lot of hot and bother, but, you know, people enjoy that kind of stuff when they make it. If you've got something like that in your world, be sure to let me know. Okay, so we learned about this dude and this dude, and seeing as we're over this side of the tree, we might as well go ahead and pick up the research note for the crystalline brain as well. Okay, that might be Aurum or Cognitio and crystallized brain. Probably going to be Cognitio, I'd wager, because it's actually about brains. Oh my goodness. Sure enough, it is. It uses all 6 of the primals, Cognitio as advertised, and Vitreus. This is going to be probably impossible, like right off the bat. Vitreus is actually one of those aspects. Well, I guess we could use Metallum, but then Metallum doesn't actually connect to anything else, does it? Yes, and then Vitreus, that just connects to 2 primals, so that kind of sucks. Yeah, we're probably just going to have to just flat out break the rule here, so we might as well get our hands dirty, and for the first time in quite a long time, as it turns out, just go ahead and break it. Alright, let's see. So if I do something like Volatus, yeah, I can do something like Volatus here, and then Multus here, and that connects these two together. Now, is there anything that I can use to connect that together? What I'm thinking is maybe Limus, or maybe not. I was thinking of somehow connecting across here. A Tempestas could be something potentially, but it's 2 blocks away, so I want to try and think of something else if I can. Not quite. We might just have to like brute force it, to be honest, a little bit here. So let's see if I can just throw some aspects down. I can't really do the Armotus method that I used to do. I could do Arbor Motus. So if I do something like that, sure, let's just do Operation Brute Force. Why not? Throw down some Tempestus. It's been a long time since I brute forced a research. Okay, so we have Cognitio over here. Now that connects to Ignis, so we can just go Ignis Lux like that. So then we can go Arbor, Arbor. Yeah, it's kind of boring researching like this in all honesty, but, you know, better than nothing. Okay, then we'll go Ir again, and then we'll go Vakwas over here. Let's connect these two together. Very easy, very simple. Kind of too simple, but, you know, it's a way. It's a way to do research. Okay, then we'll go Erba Awictus, like so. Now, this still hasn't generated its little sparky dude. Okay, we're probably just going to end up doing Lux over here as well. So let's get that down. Okay, and then we'll go back over here. Next up is Ir, and then Arbor, and then Ir again. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe I could like squeeze through here, but I think I need to sort of be over here. And then we've got those two. Alright, Metallum is Terra. Alright, I think the best thing to do might actually be to take that back and then go Arbor again. I'm thinking of just going through Multus, by the way. So we'll go right there. And then, or like Ordo, like so. Yep. Multus right there. And Ir right there, and that should be good. I don't like doing researches like this. It's been a long time since I did that. I must have said this about 3 times just now. It's not very imaginative, but, you know, you didn't really give me much choice with this one. It was using all of the really nice aspects for linking. Maybe it might have been possible, but I seriously doubt it. Okay, so we got the mostly harmless knowledge on this. Before I open that up, let's just quickly take a look at our sanity with the sanity checker. Just a hair above the second gold band there. So picking this up gives us some permanent warp. And yeah, just like 1 pixel above that again. Okay, so we're actually about half and half, aren't we, on permanent warp and normal warp there. So I think the permanent warp is like permanent, but then you can actually use the warp getting rid of stuffs to get rid of that normal warp. So let's go ahead and read about... Oh, hello, there's something new over here. It actually looks like a really interesting block. So we picked up a crystalline brain. I wonder what this is all about. This looks kind of interesting. Having steadily honed your crystallization technique with redstone and spider eyes, you've decided to take on a more difficult subject, the brain. You've found that such a complex and delicate crystalline structure requires additional magical reinforcement to survive the process. Primal Essentia seems to do the trick nicely, resulting in 6 different types of crystalline brain, depending on the aspect chosen. Right. You have many potential applications in mind for these constructs of memory and logic, but additional examination of each type may be required to work out the details, sort of heavily implying the game that I may need to just go ahead and craft these things first and scan them with the scan stanitron in order to get some new research out of them. But yeah, this is just looks like a basic crafting recipe to get a precursor ingredient for other various researches here in Automagy. So you get a crystalline brain for each type of primal. It requires a zombie brain, the primal in question, as well as a whole heap of wheat use. Thankfully, I don't use that for very much, and it's actually pretty easy to get. It comes out of glass. Okay, so that's actually those 3 things there done, I think, isn't it? And I can actually feel my voice going here. So, man, there's actually... I just want to quickly look at that melding mirror crossing the streams. Ooh, Ghostbusters reference. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to call it there, guys. I have been doing a recording session for 2 hours today for a very special little mini-series. If you've made it to the end of this episode, I might as well go ahead and tease it. It's going to be a... Oh, hello. Hold that thought. What's that? I feel oddly drained. I have Flux Flu 4. Great. Yeah, it's going to be a Halloween-themed series. I did a a series of videos with one of the fans of the channel, and I'm hoping to do something more like that in future, where we have more of the channel's fans, commenters, all the people that like and follow on Twitter and stuff like that. I want to do more for you guys who sort of take the extra steps to get involved with the channel, and I think doing videos with you guys is something that would help that out. So that series is going to be coming out over the Halloween season, sort of around Halloween, and I guess Thaumcraft, while that's happening, will be taking a little bit of a break. But anyway guys, that's it from me for this episode. Hope that you enjoyed it all the same, even though we didn't get too much done. We got a few new researchers, but thankfully we actually have everything that we need now to get started with doing some more of this node stuff that I've actually really been wanting to do for quite some time. Nodes is definitely one of my favourite things in this game. But anyway, man, that was a really long outro. Thank you guys very much for watching. Kia kaha, and I'll see you in the next episode.